Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. Glad to see everybody back after our 6-hour live last week about the election. But today we're going back to business as usual, talking about, you know, the regular old fun stuff that we talk about: spirituality, conspiracies, questions about hypnosis, past life, karma, all of those things. So, I just finished the third part of my White Rabbit series, which is on Instagram and TikTok. I'll be putting them all together. Oh, you're coming on the cruise, Bethany? Oh, amazing. I'm so excited. We are getting closer to the cruise. So, anyone who's coming, I'm excited to see you there. Let me know if you're going to be there. Awesome. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun. Did you get your excursion tickets? Because there was those extra. I actually didn't get one of them. They were sold out, and they didn't even save them for the speakers. Yeah, I was a little salty about that. Oh, I'm glad you got them all, Bethany. Um, I'm gonna go to the one in Belize and the one in Tulum with the Hertogs. Mm, awesome. You got 3 of them. All right. So, we'll do a little Q&A. I don't have anything prepared. I just finished doing my third part of the White Rabbit series. So, part 1, as you guys know, if you're looking on TikTok, it got removed. So, if you want to see part 1, it's about adrenochrome. It's very heavy into the dark, deep depths of conspiracy. So, if you guys want to know more about why they call uh, it White Rabbit, then go check that out on Instagram because it's banned on TikTok. Part 2 is about the unknown, that basically, with rabbit holes being underground, being unknown, that they're actually a passageway into the underworld, the unknown, the beyond the veil, and that goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. And then the third part that I just did is about Tricks serial, the Matrix, and the Trickster archetype. So that one is the one I just put up, and that basically, I wanna answer some questions when they come in, but in the meantime, I'll let you guys know about this, like, trickster archetype. It comes from Carl Jung's work, and basically, this trickster archetype is what we're seeing with Trix the rabbit, and we're seeing with a lot of other times when we see the white rabbit coming up. And what we're seeing with this archetype, so the trickster is basically like chaos and humor and sometimes deception and trickery to reveal something or to be an agent of change or to bring on transformation. So sometimes when the white rabbit is coming up in modern society, it is this archetype of the trickster, of transformation through this kind of chaos and unveiling of things. But so the trickster is a shadow archetype. So, as we know in Carl Jung's work, we have our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, and our unconscious mind is where the shadow is. But this is considered like more of a shadow archetype. The trickster kind of gets that like shadow within ourself and that shadow within the collective. It kind of, through humor, through trickery, through games, gets you to reveal the shadow part of yourself or the shadow part of the collective. Go watch the video. But, I end with the fact that in Carl Jung's work, we see the trickster, and then the next archetype is the savior. So a lot of times it's this white rabbit, follow the white rabbit. It unveils the shadow part of humanity. It involves the unhealed part of humanity. The perversions, all of the dark stuff that's happening. However, it's very easy to then only point the fingers and then to only look at the shadow of humanity and not be willing to look at our own shadow within ourselves. And then you believe that you graduate to the next archetype. So then many people are like, oh, they've unveiled the secrets and the darkness of the world and the Diddy parties and this and that. But then they don't do the shadow work of themselves. And that you go to the savior archetype where now you think you're here. I got to save the children. I got to save America. I got to save this. I got to save that. I got to save this. But without doing the work on yourself, you go to the savior archetype, but the savior shadow is even darker because the shadow of the savior archetype is not this fun trickster spirit that kind of gets the darkness out with humor. The dark side of the savior is cult leaders, is people like, the Heaven's Gate guy, Osho, how Osho became the guru and the savior, but then without doing that shadow work that the trickster is showing us, it basically can turn into something that is like maniacal, occult leader, kind of like Keith Raniere from Nexium, where he became the savior, but then didn't do the shadow work, where then he was doing all that horrible stuff. Let's see. Are you going to watch the UAP hearing tomorrow? They released the testimony already. Oh, I didn't know that the testimony was up. I am. I have my alarm set to wake up early to watch it, and then I'll cover it. I want to do a video about it. Have your thoughts on Dolores Cannon New Earth shift changed at all since you did plant medicine? And someone else is also asking, hey, I wanted to ask you, I feel like we are in the bad timeline of the Earth shift before you talked. Okay, let's talk about the timelines. We'll pull a card about it after. Okay. So my feelings of Dolores Cannon have not changed. I love Dolores Cannon still. I still think that she is the metaphysical grandma that we all needed. And as far as the earth shift stuff, it hasn't changed since plant medicine. Although my perspective has grown. So, as I initially, when I first learned about 5D was in, I think 2015. Or at least like that was kind of when it really like became something to me. I think I heard about 5D before that, but in 2015, I met this guy. He came into my job, not this other guy of a story of the guy coming into my job. This is a different one. He came in and he was like a brother to me. Like instantly when I met him, I was like, "Oh my God, this guy is like my soul brother." But the other girl that was working with me just was like, didn't vibe with him at all. She's like, "Oh my God, that guy's a fucking energy vampire. I got to get out of here." But I was like, "No, man, that's my soul brother." And so we were hitting it off, and he was older, maybe, I don't know, 25 years older or something. And he was really nice, and he was like kind of telling me like he instantly knew a bunch of stuff about me too. And he was like, "Oh my God, you have like amazing pattern recognition." And he's like, there's only like 6 patterns in the universe and you know them, you can see them. That's why you're so good at finding stuff out and this trajectory. And like we were vibing, and then we became friends. He's actually the one who brought me to that healer Moses that I've talked about, who then he did amazing healing work on me. Like I said, I probably wouldn't recommend Moses now, but for that point in my life, it was really great. And he started getting into really heavy into the 5D. Around that same time, let me see if I can find the story. Around that same time, there was a couple. Let's see. Couple goes missing in California, says they're going to 5D. Let's see if I can find this story. No, this is not the couple. This is another couple that went missing. Okay, this is Daniel and Stephanie Bernard. They were both in their 70s. They lived in a nudist resort in California. Oh, they're saying it doesn't involve going to 5D. No, why would you give this to me then? No. They were a young couple, keys left behind, 5D. Let's see. This is not, I can't find it. I'm always looking for this story. So at the time that I was hanging out with this guy, he started getting really crazy into the 5D, like spiritual psychosis. And this was like the first time I had really seen that happen to someone. And he was also like someone who came from like a very rich family. Oh gosh, sorry. I just like smashed this thing on the, okay, let me not touch everything on my table because it's going to hit the mic. Okay. So he grew up like very wealthy. Like his neighbor was OJ. Like he grew up with OJ. You know, he was younger than OJ, so that was, like, his neighbor when he was in high school, and it was, like, he lived in this, like, prominent area, and basically he still, like, didn't work as an adult. He was still like a nepo baby, but in his 50s now, and so he starts talking about 5D and starts, like, getting really into the spiritual psychosis, and he's like, "Well, it's happened, and Jen, we're going to 5D," and then he's like, "And I have to tell you, we're soulmates." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I think we'd both feel it if we were soulmates. I think. And then he was just getting crazy, and he's like, "Well, we gotta get ready. 5D's coming. We gotta go." And I got super scared. I got terrified because I was like, "Dude, listen, I don't come from a rich family. I gotta work. You know, 5D, if 5D doesn't come, I still got my bills to pay and I'm scared. You're scaring me." And he's like, "We're soulmates." And I'm like, "Of course your soulmate is like 25 years younger than you. But like, come on. Like sometimes no offense, but sometimes guys piss me off with that. That it's like, "Oh, okay." And I mean, I was much younger too at that time. And I'm like, "Oh, you get the 24-year-old as your soulmate, and I have the crusty old bald man as mine. Thanks." Like, come on. It was come on. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was just like there was no mutual feelings of that, and we were just friends, and then he started crossing this line like we were going to run away together romantically when there has never been anything like that in our friendship, and so then I kinda end up telling him off, and I'm like, "Listen, you're scaring me with this 5D stuff," and at the same time, on the news, there was this couple who went missing. I don't know if they ever were found. I don't think these people were ever found, and it was a guy and a girl. They had the same type of thing happen. They said they were going to 5D. They left their keys, left their cars, disappeared, and nobody found them. And then the director, I think the director from Guardians of the Galaxy, I think that's who it was, started going on Twitter and was like, that was his friend. So he started posting about this story, but not mentioning the 5D stuff. But he's like, my friend is missing. And starts talking about this. So then I was seeing in the news that people went missing because of 5D. This guy was going crazy because of 5D. And then I was like, fuck this 5D stuff. This is scary. Um, I am not in a position to lose my mind, okay? Because if I go crazy, I don't have a family home to go to. You know, there's no house that my family has that is home. So I'm like, if I lose my space, which is my apartment, that is my only space that I have. Like, I don't have somewhere else to go. I'm like, no, 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 I can't go. Everybody's going psychotic right now. I can't lose my life. So I got super anti on the 5D after that for a bit because I was afraid. And then a couple years later, I was working in a restaurant and one of the girls that worked there, she was like, "Have you ever heard of 5D?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I felt like you'd know something about it." She's like, "Can you tell me what it is?" And then, you know, as time went and I started to get more comfortable with the ideas again, and, you know, then by the time of 2020, I was in my own craziness again with it. But So initially when I heard about 5D, I kind of had this kind of rapture-like idea of what was going to happen, that like we were going to split and some people were going to leave and some people were going to stay. Then I got really heavy into reading all of Dolores's books, and she kept asking for clarity on like, what is the 5D? What is this going to look like? What is this earth shift? How is it going to play out? And so some of the things that had come up in her work was, one, that it really couldn't be explained, which wasn't very helpful. Two, she's like, okay, well, what's going to happen to the people who are like, quote unquote, left behind? And they said, it's going to be fine. Like, and then she's like, okay, well, what about those other people? And they said, you're just going to drift away from them. And she's like, well, what do you mean you're going to drift away? Is people going to look for them? Are they going to go missing? Is somebody could have called the cops if somebody goes? And this was obviously, she wrote that book many years before, but that was what I had seen happen on the news. And that story just has like overlooked. So like it was very random. But this drifting away is what they talked about. And Dolores was like, well, what happens to those people? Are people going to look for them? Are they going to go missing? And they said, no, don't worry. It's not going to be like that. And she's like, but I don't understand how it's going to be. And then, and especially Dolores was one of the main people putting this forward at the time. So she needed those answers. She needed to tell people, like, because everybody's asking her and she's like, I'm trying to figure out. So what they said is that, like, think about, like, say someone from your past. So, like, think about somebody from your past, like somebody you went to high school with who you used to be very close to, and now you guys have drifted in different directions. And, you don't really reach out to each other. You don't really like, you're not putting a search party out because you haven't spoke to them in years. You just kind of naturally grew apart, naturally distanced, and then just over time, more space was created between both of you, and you both just go on your lives separately. And they were saying that it's gonna be a lot more like that than like this kind of aggressive timeline shift where basically, and so some of the other stuff that is talked about in Dolores's books, in the clarity that she was getting about it, was that people were going to be, and then, like, I couldn't understand, how could people live in 2 different realities in the same reality and be perceiving each other? So then I was like, what, are they going to not perceive each other? So then I kind of came to better to understand the timeline stuff, where we're always shifting timelines. Every single day, every decision we make, we are making very minute, tiny timeline shifts. And every decision we make, with, like, say, I was shuffling the cards in the beginning, but then we ended up talking about the timeline. So then I put this down and I didn't end up pulling the card yet. I'm going to pull the card later. So something like that is like 2 potential timelines, but they're so close and they're so similar to each other that it's not enough to be like a huge shift. However, it is 2 separate timelines. So then when I realized, like, we're constantly on multiple timelines. And then we have this, the next thing, which is, okay, so what if somebody makes a drastic change? Like, they are going to live on their highest timeline. They are going to live on the Earth's highest timeline. They're going to be happy. They're going to be healthy. They're going to live in a prosperous future. They're not going to go in the apocalypse timeline. They're not going to go in this timeline. They're going to, like, this, quote unquote, new Earth or 5D timeline. And someone else is consciously choosing to want to stay miserable, want to stay in a dark place, want to stay portraying everything in victimhood, wanting to stay in the negative timeline. So when someone makes that choice, you might not be on the same timeline as that person over time. But what happens? It's not like that person disappears. So this is, I've talked about this in the Earth Shift series, that basically, and no, actually, I think it was the Mandela Effect series, one of them. So basically, what would happen is that that other person, my rice is done cooking. How did you know that that was my, how did you know that that was my Japanese rice cooker? I know, I'm still watching the dog Nintendo, and he eats brown rice. So I was cooking the brown rice for him. I also eat brown rice now, ever since the ayahuasca, but you're clairvoyant. I doubt they heard it on YouTube though, because I don't think the mic picks it up, but the phone definitely picks it up. The rice is coming to the 5D. We will have rice in the 5D. Um, so let's say someone in your life is choosing to live on a negative outlook of life and you want to live on the positive outlook of life. Now, that person over time, not just 1 day or 2 days, but let's say they truly start to live on that timeline where they want to stay in the victimhood, they want to stay in the darkness timeline, and then they will show up eventually. You might start to drift over time, which happens, right? Because you'll be like, I don't think I resonate with this person anymore, or maybe I don't like to hang out with them as much. And you start to shift a little further apart from them, but they're not going to disappear because it might be just like they start to show up in a different way. So, let's use the example, the way that it was portrayed in the Earthshift series, which was like, okay, so like the world is a game, right? Our planet is a game, and your soul is here playing this game. So, your main character, like your soul is playing this main character, and you're the main character in your own story that you're perceiving. Now, you might start to go on one path of the game, and other people will go on a different path of the game, but that doesn't mean that they disappear from the game. It almost means almost like an NPC version of them continues in your part of the game. And so it's not that they are an NPC, but it's just that not the main player is what's there fully. It's another lighter aspect of their soul, and they might start to show up almost as a lesson for you versus the main player is also playing. So there might be a time where you and someone else are both the main players, but then their main player goes to another thing, which is their conscious choice, what they want to do, how they want to live. But then you're on another timeline. So they're not just going to poof disappear. They're going to show up in a different way, and they might start to be different towards you, or show you a different lesson, or teach you something different than what they might have before, because now they're showing up almost as an archetype in your reality over time. Someone said, so what is the essence of the game? So the essence of the game, as far as we can understand and know, to what I believe it to be, is, as we know, there is only one. There is just one consciousness. Consciousness is the entire universe. So there's one consciousness, but this consciousness is expanding through experience, through learning about itself by, so like, let's say I talk sometimes about that. I never saw the movie. I saw the trailer, but it's called Vantage Point, the movie. And like, there's one event that happens, but they show the event from like 10 different perspectives. So there's one event, but then you see it from here, from here, from here, from here, from here, from here, from here. And all the different perspectives have a different interpretation of what happened. They have a different view of what happened. They have a different experience about what happened. So this time on Earth is one experience. Like, we're here right now experiencing, we just experienced this election. We're experiencing the coming years. There's wars on Earth. There's things changing. There's new technology. Like, all of these things are events that are happening, but then there's 8 billion vantage points of it. And that's how it gets the full picture of an experience. So the consciousness is working through us. We're little fractals who became individual souls. So we have our own individual process of how we want to play the game. But it's all the different perspectives that we're looking at this one thing that is happening. So the game generates novelty through stable and chaotic periods. Well, it's also our free will. We have the option to kind of choose your own adventure in the game. And then we also have the option to choose your own perspective in the game. You know, here seeing this one event, like, say, for example, the election. We have some people who are looking at the election and they're like, hell yeah, America's going to be restored. Global balance is going to be restored. We have some people looking at this election from the perspective of, oh my God, they're going to put us in camps. I've seen some very crazy videos like that where people are kind of saying like they're going to, I don't know what they're preparing for. They act like they're preparing for concentration camps or something. And that's another perspective of the game. Then there's people, like a lot of us that are probably here that are kind of like, oh, right. It's happening. It's something that happens. Every 4 years it does, and the game keeps going, So it's like those are just 3 perspectives, but there's thousands of perspectives on what happened. So that is kind of like creating the full 360 view of an event, which is why, there's kind of no objective truth. Because every single thing has many sides to what happened. But there are definitely moments that are more stable and moments that are more chaotic. But, choosing to look through higher perspectives this time around. Yes, Candace, you had a Russian eating dill experience. Mm. It's like we choose the world or level to go explore, yes. And I also believe that there's different kind of expansion packs within the game, right? Like living in the US is a certain expansion pack of the game, right? Living in the Middle East is a certain expansion pack of the game. Living in Russia is another expansion pack of the game. Living in China is another expansion pack of the game. Like if you were to like play The Sims and you have like these different things that you can do, like, you know? This is so wild that your ex-husband is like a peaceful, bland character in your life, but 20 years ago, he was your villain. Interesting. Maybe you guys have gone to a different timeline and now he's here, just kind of a part of himself, um, teaching you a lesson now, but also we still have karma with these people. So it's still like a part of them and it's still their soul. It's just their conscious awareness is choosing to view a different timeline at this time. You lived in Australia and Dubai in the US. You will have fun in a game. Exactly, and then you can go to many different places, maybe your expansion is the traveler expansion pack. Even within the US, there's many different ways to live, the US is like several countries within itself with the culture being so different, I always joke around that LA is a very specific type of expansion pack because people come here and it is so extreme of whether you will find yourself or lose yourself, and the stakes are so high, So, like, coming to LA, we look at these different people's stories, and people really do lose themselves completely, sometimes even losing their soul, it seems, completely losing themselves, completely losing their soul, and then you have other people that come to LA, and they truly like find their voice and find their way of living authentically. So extremes in LA. It is a very extreme place. And like there's also like people here, like spirituality, for example. People come here and like really find their work as a light worker. And then other people will find the dark side of spirituality here and like get very deep into the occult and maybe even like, beyond the occult, even like going to maybe some type of ritualistic stuff, maybe whatever these dark forces are. So you have like the city of angels, but then it also has times like the city of devils. So it's like a very specific game of the expansion pack that has, very high stakes, but very high reward. It's kind of like like a high rollers room of a casino is you're like, I'm putting it all on it. I'm putting it all on black. I'm putting it all on red, and then you can really win big or you could really lose hard. And I think that's also why we have, such a extreme uh wealth and extreme poverty right next to each other, like right outside of a mansion is homeless tents. So it's like we have these really extremes here where you have duality very, very like within close proximity of each other. Vegas is a portal. Oh my God, Vegas is a portal. I'm telling you, when I did mushrooms in Vegas, I didn't want to, but my brother convinced me to. And I'm telling you, when I was down on Fremont Street, old Vegas, I was like, "Oh my God, this is a crossroads to hell. And this is where the fourth dimension and hell meet. And I need to leave. I'm scared." Can't stay in Vegas more than 3 days. I know it really does consume you. It really drains you and consumes you. Yes, from Sydney, Australia. Your cat passed away a month ago. Oh, you don't like this timeline anymore. Oh. Well, you know what they say with animals? So, let's say all souls and things, we do have this kind of collective mission, which is of source. Source is unconditional love. We get the illusion of separation from source. We break off and then we have to then find unconditional love again through the illusion of separation. And that's very difficult because we live in a world where there's not much unconditional love. We have very conditional love in this world, especially, relationships, romantic relationships. Many parents have only been able to give conditional love, not because they're bad people, because it's the best that they know. Many parents don't only know how to show love when you're doing the right thing and making it easier for them, you know? And so we break off from full unconditional love into this thing of like, oh, now I need to find unconditional love as alone by myself. And then we have animals which come here. And animals are on a different level of the game, right? They're on a lower level of the game than what we are. Sometimes people get triggered when I say that because they're like, animals are above us. They're better than us. And it's like, better or worse is not what we're saying here, but they're obviously not playing that hard of a game as what we're playing, right? They're playing an easier game than we are playing. Yes, the animals ain't lower. Yeah, lower doesn't mean bad. It just means like, you know, is kindergarten bad versus high school? No. It's just what it is. So, but they're not equal because we're playing a different game. We're playing a completely different game than animals are. Animals have very minimal free will. They have, as pets, they don't even have their own free will. We're deciding for them. You know, they're playing a very different game. They're playing a survival game. The game is survival. We're on a different level of survival. So we're in a different thing where it's not just about survival. So, however, because they're on like an easier level of the game, it's much easier for them to achieve unconditional love. They pretty much are born, especially dogs, full of unconditional love. They're able to show unconditional love. They're able to share unconditional love. They support us so much. Many times, humans, the only time they actually get to experience unconditional love in a whole lifetime is from an animal. Many people never get to experience unconditional love from another human in this time of life, or in past lives, they haven't been able to. So that's why it's a shorter game for them. That's why it's a shorter game for them. So that's why their game is like 10 years or 16 years and ours is like 100, because Yeah, you wouldn't say you're better than a 3-year-old, but you are more advanced than a 3-year-old. Exactly. So, yes, pets are spiritual helpers. I do believe that. They do help us a lot. But, like, that's why they say that, like, animals, they come here, they have a mission as well. It's just that their mission is more simple, and they've completed their mission. So a lot of times, animals come in as almost like an angel or a helper to us, and they have a spiritual contract, and then with the spiritual contract, um, it's able to be completed easier. Let me just plug my phone in because my hair. You know what? My hair, the reason it looks good is because I started using the cheap shampoo at the gym with no conditioner. Who would have known? Who would have known that the detergent cheap shampoo from the gym did better than the expensive stuff that I've been wasting my money on? Your boy was pure unconditional love, definitely helped you on such a deep level. Yeah, so that's the thing too, is that like with animals, they serve their purpose. You said the color too. Yeah, I haven't done the color. I think it's just that that shampoo. That detergent type shampoo really cleaned me. What kind of shampoo? Just the green stuff with no name at the gym. It's just like the stuff that's in the dispenser at the gym, like the cheap detergent like shampoo. I know, it's great. That's because it's blowing out your cuticle. Honestly, my hair honestly looks healthier than it does on a regular day. And plus my cuticles already, I bleach my hair, so um yeah, so like basically too, like, so like this happened to my friend, but it's very common that like you'll get a pet at a certain time of your life. And then when you go into the next stage of your life, the animal will leave, this plane. So like my friend, she had a dog for about 10 years. And when she had the baby, so she was a baby when she got it, she was in her 20s, and then in her 30s she had her son, and her dog died like 2 days after her son came home from the hospital. And it was like the dog was waiting to the next stage of her life for her to be a mother, and then he died 2 days later. And, it was like he carried her through that stage of life, and then his job was done, So it's extremely devastating, it really is, like, the most devastating thing ever to lose a pet because they really are, like, the greatest gift to the world, and they help us with so much. But when we look at it as, like, it's much easier for them to experience unconditional love. They serve their purpose, the mission that they had, and then they move on. And, who knows? So, when we talk about these levels of souls, Dolores Cannon talks about this, that when you give unconditional, so like say with us humans, if we interact with a higher dimensional being, it raises our consciousness, it raises our soul evolution, it helps us ascend. So if we interact with, say, a Pleiadian or a gray or, any type of higher dimensional being, a being that is living and operating in a higher dimension than us, it raises us a little bit. It raises our awareness. It raises our consciousness. It helps us ascend. So the same thing happens with animals. When we give animals unconditional love and we treat them, as an individual, we're like, do you want this or do you want this? Do you want this or do you want this? And then they're like, start to get to make decisions and be, an individual, and they kind of break off from the hive. They break off from being that collective hive soul and become an individual soul over time through your attention, through your love, through what you provide for them, then in their next life, you're raising their consciousness. So we see this happening in front of us. We see the animals that are domesticated are being born more intelligent, more aware. They can learn more. You see those dogs that can like basically speak with the buttons. Dogs understand so much. They basically fully understand what we're saying. So as they are raising in consciousness, now in their next lifetime, they might have the ability to incarnate as a human in their next life. So we help them to raise their consciousness. You said sometimes have been souls of children in past lives. You know, I've actually heard the opposite, that once you're a human, you never go back down. You only continue to go up or stay the same. So like you wouldn't go to an easier life form. You know, you would go continue moving up. Why do I look so orange, pink, red? Did that change it? No, I don't know why I am glowing pink, red, orange. Right? What is that? What is going on? It wasn't like that when I first came on. It was only like that after I went and plugged in the phone. Thank you. I look more normal human color on TikTok. On YouTube. Hold on. What is going on? Right? You guys obviously see it. Why am I changing colors? The white balance of your camera. And it wasn't like that before. Hold on. Let me leave the frame again. See if it. All right. I'm going to come back and be the right color this time. Hold on. I'm on another timeline. I know. It just kept getting more intense, right? Like it just kept getting more saturated, intense, and crazy. Uh-huh. The fuck? I don't even know how to do any of the settings, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you either way what any of it means. I don't know how to use it. I really don't. I don't know how to use the camera. I've ascended. It's very ugly. I'm not saying I look ugly. I'm saying it's giving Oompa Loompa, and it's really disrupting me. I look normal color in the TikTok screen, but I am an Oompa Loompa in this one. Okay, let's continue with the. Will I cover the UAP hearing tomorrow? Yes, I will. Jen, can higher beings communicate with us directly, individually through media, like maybe draw us to a certain media or show us something? I do believe that. Whether that's higher beings or just synchronicity. Or just synchronicity. What are you doing? How do I? I don't know. Thank you. The gym soap. That's what it is. I'm turning orange because of the gym soap. What time is the UAP hearing Central Time. I don't know. It is 11 Eastern, so I think it's 8:30 my time. Yeah, so higher dimensional beings, they can communicate with us, but more through like meditation, your pineal gland type of thing. Whereas when it's through media and stuff like that, that's kind of a co-creation synchronicity that is happening between you and the universe, or you and God, or you and other aspects of yourself. You keep feeling like you're seeing these overlapping stories in different bits of media and feel like they're unlocking a simulation for you. Yeah, so synchronicities do work that way. So synchronicities would um speaking of the trickster archetype, that's how I think he became aware of the trickster archetype, was through synchronicity, how Carl Jung discovered it. But so synchronicity is a bit of you co-creating with the universe, and then the universe co-creating with you. And it's kind of this give and take back and forth between the both of you. Is there some event of higher dimensional spiritual import? No, I don't understand. Have you listened to the Telepathy Tapes podcast? No, I've never heard of it. Is there some event of higher dimensional spirit? I'm not sure. I don't know. They did say that when the world went whack, the Rainbow Warriors would show face. What's what's conspirituality? Conspiracies and spirituality. Conspirituality. It's kind of like this area of spirituality that also involves conspiracy. You've been meditating so much frequently, you wonder if it means anything. Are you familiar with the black sun nemesis? I don't really believe in the black sun thing, you know? When I've looked into it, it doesn't seem real to me. It doesn't seem accurate. Settings. Can I change the settings here? Hmm. I don't know. I need to change it in the camera. You've been experiencing a lot of family deaths in your life lately. Do you think people pass during certain shifts of the earth universe consciousness? Um, that's not the only reason, obviously. Everything happens, because of a reason, both spiritual soul level and on real life level, health, decisions, things that are out of people's control, things that, are in people's control. There's many different things. However, there is some people who uh they have experienced what they want to experience in this life. So I am a believer of kind of the exit points thing. So there's a lot of different like spiritual beliefs that there's a lot of different spiritual beliefs that talk about how basically we before we're born, we choose several exit points. So we choose several times in which we might leave the earth plane. So like let's say for example, like people choose 3. They said you could choose hundreds. Um like if you have maybe chosen a very risky soul contract or a very risky mission on earth, you might have many exit points. And so let's say you have 3, for example, just to make it easy. Let's say one is at 12 years old, one is at 40, and one is at 80. Now, let's say when you're 12 years old, you might get into an accident or something, but then you're fine, you end up living because your soul makes a decision at that time that says like, "You know what? I'm still on course for my mission. I'm still on path to be able to learn what I want to learn. I'm still going to give this a shot. I still have a chance." Um you might come to the next exit point, and as it approaches, you'd be like, "You know what? I think I'm done. I think I've experienced what I want to experience here, And it's not your conscious self, it's your soul self. So your conscious self could be feeling like, "Oh, I hate being here. I hate being alive." But your soul is like, "Oh no, we got something else to do here. It hasn't fully played out yet." And then that'll, you'll end up surviving or just going through that like it's any other day and nothing happens. And then your last exit point, um, you would probably then leave on the last one that you chose. Now, they say that sometimes this is what happens with people that are struggling with addiction, that sometimes when we lose people young to addiction, their soul feels that they don't want to continue because they foresee that they are probably going to continue on in a way that would actually not be beneficial for their soul. So, and that's not everyone, but they say that sometimes, and not to say that there isn't any other things. Of course, there could be other ways that people pass, Of course, there could be an unforeseeable accident or someone made a decision of something that was very dangerous and, people could take their own lives. Those are not exit points. Those are usually the human's free will of their conscious mind. So, there's many different things. This is just one concept. And of course, we can never know 100% if it's proven until we're not here anymore. But then they say that this is why sometimes, like, maybe young people do leave when they're experiencing illness or experiencing addiction, because then they're kind of like, well, I think I've experienced what is the concept called? I mean, I've heard it talked about in a lot of different things. If you look at like exit points, a lot of people will call it something like an exit point, but it's not really something that is like a named, coined concept. I've just heard a lot of people talk about it, a lot of different psychics and channelers and things like that. They talk about it also in this book called Laws of the Spirit World. You had an exit experience, you saw an accident before it happened, and you were able to avoid it. Wow. Yeah, you've only heard it referred to as exit points. Yeah. It's not really like something that is like this really well-known concept. It's just something that kind of comes up a lot for these different channelers and spiritual. Um, what if you feel like you don't think you've experienced any exit points? You've never been in a bad wreck or any health scare. Does that mean you didn't make any? No, that's not true. They say that there's many exit points that people have, and most of them you would never know. So you might have never, or yours could be much later in life. Not everybody starts them young. Some people might have their first exit point be in their 60s or 70s, and then they have multiple around that time. Darius calls his OBE method a controlled near death experience. Interesting. It is one death after another this season. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Mhm. What was the name of the book again? Laws of the Spirit World, I believe, and it's written by an Indian woman, but she has, like, a Christian background, so, it's pretty mixed between some Hindu concepts and Christian concepts. Do I have the book? Oh, no, I gave it to someone. I don't have it anymore. But I talked about that book. I did reference that book in my, um, Soul series. Is an exit point really an exit point if you're going to go to some other place? What do you mean by that? You've had 7, no limitations unless she says you decide to. Heart attack at age 43, they say you should have died, but you wanted to continue your mission. That's what happens a lot of time with near death experiences, is that, like, you do feel like you get to choose to stay. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that, Steven. Is an exit point really an exit point if you're going to just go some other place? I don't know what you mean. Like, you mean like the other side? Like when people cross over? Exit point is a soul leaving the body. You wanna make sure you're understanding. Yeah. Exit point is dying. Yeah. An exit point is leaving the earthly plane. You told your girlfriend the moon is not real, it's a soul trap, and she laughed. Yeah, I don't believe in the soul trap moon thing, either. So, okay, the whole thing with the soul trap, okay? You know, I'm always getting heated on this topic. I'm always getting heated on this topic because it's coming through a negative perspective. So basically, some person who is living in fear with a negative outlook on the world is putting this information out there of this being a soul trap. But it's from this perspective. That's like, like what is an example of that? Like, that's like me saying, um, let's say, you know, Peru, right? That's like me saying, oh, Peru is a dangerous place. Peru is filled with crime. You'll probably get mugged there. You'll probably get your stuff stolen. But then I've never been to Peru, right? Then I go to Peru and it's the most beautiful place that I've ever been to. And it's safer than living in LA. But this is the thing is we have people with a negative outlook from one side saying what's on the other side. So this don't follow the light. You're more than welcome not to. I will be. Um, I will be. This whole idea of like um the white light is a trap. So I tried to find like who started spreading this information. I did find a recording that John Lear was someone who really made this popular. So John Lear, like the UFO researcher guy, made the concept very popular and spread a lot of the information about don't go into the white light. Let me look it up. Because it came originally into popular belief from coast to coast. Who said don't go into the white light? Let's see. On Coast to Coast AM. Because that was really where it started to get spread around. White light. Don't go into the white light. People are believing this because they want to that makes him a demon, correct? What are you talking about? Um yeah, it's not going to give me the information, but I think it was John Lear or someone who said it and then it became really popular and then I saw someone ask him where did he get it from. Yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't have any information. It's just saying it's a concept connected to near death experience. It didn't have any real information for it. But then that person who is the one who said it on Coast to Coast, who got it all popular, they asked him who told him. He said Whitley Strieber told him. So then Art Bell asked Whitley Strieber in another interview, and I ended up finding it. And Whitley Strieber was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, he said you told him to not go into the white light." He was like, "That's terrifying. Why would I tell him that?" And he's like, "Well, why would you tell him that?" He said, "You told him." And Whitley in this interview was like, "No, that's terrifying. Why would I say that?" And then Whitley starts racking his brain, and then he's like, "Oh, I wrote a book that there was that concept in it, but it's a fictional book." So you wouldn't want to do the opposite of what Hollywood does and not follow. You really think that I would do something just to do the opposite of something? No, I'm gonna do what I feel is the right thing to do in every situation. I don't care. It would be very embarrassing to do something just because you wanna do the opposite of what other people do. That would be very embarrassing. No, because you know what happens probably if you don't go into the light? Did you ever see the movie Risk Cutters? Where people just stay here in the 4th dimension without time, and they just get stuck in a time loop of when they died like a ghost, and they just live in the 4th dimension here. You should watch the movie Wrist Cutters, and it's like this concept that people who take their own life, and then they what happens to them after they die. I don't believe that's what happens to people who take their own life because we've already seen information about that. They go just like everybody else to the other side. They are met with their loved ones. Their soul has to go through more healing process, limbo, but it's not really limbo because it's here. It's just like the dead side of here. You've seen a bunch of your stuff, but what's your ideas on magic, occult? I think it's evolved a bit over time. I was pretty not into magic because my own experience. So like because I grew up, my grandmother used to do, I know it's politically incorrect to say black magic now, but that's what it is. You know, I think now you're supposed to call it baneful magic, but it's black magic. Okay. And, when I grew up, my grandma had a lot of things like that, like people's name carved into stuff, hexes and curses around. And so I grew up around that and I was very scared of it. And it had very dark energy. I was very afraid of it. I wouldn't go into a botanica when I was younger. I wouldn't go into a crystal store when I was younger. I was very big on aliens because of my alien experience when I was 5. But aside from that, I was like and I liked supernatural, I liked ghosts, but magic, I was like, "Oh, no. I'm not touching that." First of all, I know it's real. I know it works. There's kind of like there's a bunch of stories in my family about what had happened to people who had curses on them, and those things really did happen to them. And so I was very, afraid of it. Then when I moved to LA in 2012, um and for me, it was more aliens side of things was my initial always interest, and then it became conspiracy, and then I started to have a bit more of the spiritual side of the awakening, which, I started getting into crystals and started getting into stuff like that, and then I started learning about channeling, and I wanted to start practicing channeling, and then, I was kind of, like, getting very surrounded by a lot of magic and stuff like that. So, and I talked about this on my Substack that I did an altar for the blood moon, so like, when the blood moon, it's not like real blood. It's like when the moon goes red during a eclipse that it goes a full eclipse and it turns red. And so there was this eclipse in like maybe the end of 2014 or beginning of 2015. And so I had a podcast at that time. And I was like, I'm going to do a ritual for the success of my podcast. So I did a little ritual. I went out under the moon, the blood moon. It happened, it eclipsed, it turned red, and then weird stuff that very second started happening. So while I was outside, a homeless guy came up to me and he was like, the moon's not real." And I was like, and at that time I had never heard that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a satellite that got brought here." And I was like, "Oh, okay, crazy, crazy homeless guy." And then another guy came up to me and he looked crazed in his eyes and he's like, "Pamela? Pamela?" And I'm like, "No, my name's not Pamela." He's like, "I I know you from that show." I don't know what show he's talking about. And I'm like, What are you talking about?" And he's like, "No. Do you have a show or something?" And I was like, "No." And then I got creeped out, so then I start walking to the store. I was like, "Let me go." There was like a 24-hour Walgreens. So I was like, "Let me go get a snack at this 24-hour Walgreens." But it's late at night, because this was, maybe around 10 or 11 at night. So I go to the Walgreens, and then as I'm walking out of the Walgreens, my sorry, TikTok. Um, as I'm walking out of the Walgreens, I get a phone call from my friend in Arizona, and she's like, "Oh my God, did you know that your podcast is in the top 25 podcasts right now?" I was like, "No." And so it was in the top 25 of all the podcasts on iTunes, and then it was like in comedy podcast. So it went up to like number 6 or whatever. I have the screenshot of it still somewhere. It was like Joe Rogan, me, Bill Burr. It was like this list, Adam Carolla, like, and then it was me. And so I was like, "Oh my God, the magic worked." And I was always afraid to do magic. And then I did, and it worked very quickly and easily. And then really weird stuff started happening to me. And I really felt like I didn't have the type of protection that I had. So I've always lived in like very, dangerous areas, where there's, not necessarily safe to just go walk in the street as a woman, but I always felt protected. And then um it was like my protection was gone. That's when then, not long after that is when I got attacked by that person who had the reptilian eye, which I talked about on my YouTube and my old videos. Um, I'll briefly tell you the story if you guys haven't heard, but I'm sure most of you guys have heard already. But like my experience with a reptilian happened right after that, like, a couple weeks or so later. And it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, 8:39 in the morning, and I was taking the bus to work. And this guy at the bus stop was like talking to me, and he was kind of like hitting on me or whatever. And then I saw this person walking down the street, and this person was put their hoodie over their head like this. So they were blocking themselves from the sun. So they had a hoodie, they were holding it like this, and it was creating like a dark shadow around them. So that was like this kind of dark shadow walking down the street. And so none of the sun was touching them. And they were completely shielding themselves from the sun with this black hoodie. And the body of the person was like androgynous, like very, very ripped, like super, super ripped, but very skinny, like very, very skinny, but very ripped, and but was moving. So it was like this, but was moving like a snake. And the body was like Selma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn when she's doing the striptease. But it was a man that was ripped with abs and muscles like crazy. And it was not like a trans person, it was a man, but it was moving like a sexy snake woman. And it had a dark shadow that it was creating around it. And so this guy is talking to me at the bus stop, and I go and I look and I'm like, what the fuck am I seeing right now? And it was just like the way that I looked over, because it was just so weird because it was casting a really big shadow around it. It was very sunny out. And I'm like, "What?" And then, at this moment, I, like, kind of and the person is also wearing black sunglasses, but is shirtless, okay? And slithering down the street. And I'm like, "What the" like, it just takes me, like, a second, and I'm like, "What am I looking at right now?" And it was just literally, like, 1 second so fast, like, I didn't have a chance to react, and this person, like, looks at me, directly at me, even though they have glasses on. The hoodie is down. They're now wearing a shirt that is like a wife beater shirt, like a black tank top. So, like, I don't know how this person went from being shirtless to then in a tank top and then has these like muscles. I don't know where the hoodie went. Where it was like instantly wearing something different and locked. And it was like the way it was slithering down the street, it like locked hard on me. We locked looking at each other, but I couldn't see its eyes because it had sunglasses on. And then this person zoomed into me. It is crazy. It's not like they walked towards me. It's not like they ran towards me. It was like they stopped and zoomed right into me. And like, this was like 1 second. And then this person is in my face and I am like I'm at the bus stop. So I'm near the pole of the bus stop. And I'm pretty sure I jumped back, but I honestly felt like I got pushed back, but this person never touched me. But I'm sure I probably jumped back because I was scared. And so I jumped back and I hit myself on the pole of the bus stop. And the person looks at me and he's like, so aggressive. Like this thing was slivering down like a woman and then was so aggressive like a man, like very masculine, angry, violent energy. And he gets in my face and he's like, can you see me? And I don't say anything. And he's like, can you see me? And I'm still not saying anything because like I don't want to get fucked up right now in the street, like I mean, I've definitely will get into an argument with people, but this dude was about to beat me up. Like I didn't know what was going to happen because this person was so violent and so angry, aggressive, like fuming angry energy. And he's like, "Can you fucking see me?" And like screams it loud. And, I mean, I can only handle so much. So I yell back at him and I'm like, yeah, I fucking see you. And the second that I say, yeah, I fucking see you, he goes, oh my God. It's just so creepy. Like, even this is so far gone, but like, it's crazy to like really like kind of relive it that it's like, that slithery snake energy came back and he was like he went like all over himself, like touching his whole body and became like this weird snake energy and was like he's like, good, because I'm the sexiest thing in the fucking world, and ripped his glasses off. He had one eye, and I know people are going to think I'm crazy and lying here. If you haven't heard the story already, you're going to think I'm lying, but one eye was a yellow snake eye with a slit, and the other eye was a human eye. And he rips off. Oh, I knocked the sound off. So, they're trying to censor the truth. No, I just knocked the sound off. So, he spits in my face when he says, "I'm the sexiest thing in the whole fucking world." Spits, gets in my face, in my mouth, down my throat. The guy is gone. and I literally felt like this, happened in like, I felt like some other dimensional shit happened, and then he was gone. I don't even know how what he r was gone that quick. I look over, there was 2 old ladies. There was, like, a Mexican lady and a Korean lady, and then there was this guy from Boston that was hitting on me, and I look around and, like, these people act like nothing they're looking at me like I'm crazy, like I didn't and so I'm confused because I'm like, "What the fuck just happened?" I take off my glasses, and there's spit on the glasses, so I know that this would happened in real dimension. I know this happened in the 3rd dimension because there's spit on my glasses, and then I'm like I look over, these 2 old ladies are looking at me like the don't say anything. The guy is looking at me not saying anything, and then, "Why do you think you were able to see other beings after" so then I yell at these kinda 2 ladies. These ladies are looking at me like I'm crazy but no one like, I don't need anyone to do anything, but they can't just say like, "Oh, are you okay?" or "That was crazy," or anything like that, and so then I say to the old ladies, I'm like, "Do you have a freaking tissue or something?" The guy that was there didn't say anything else to me. The ladies gave me a squirt of hand sanitizer because I asked them like, could you give me anything?" The bus comes. None of these people will at the bus stop. These 3 people who just watched me get fucking spat in the face by a crazy person. It was like they didn't see anything. It was like they were looking at me like they were all, like, frozen, like nothing happened. Like, it was the weirdest thing, and it kept, like, like it kept, like, messing with me because I felt like I obviously experienced it. The spit was on my glasses. I knew it was real. I knew this happened in the real dimension. The bus comes. I get on the bus, and I go to work, and I was, like, shook up. I was like, "What the hell was that person's eye? Why did that person have a snake eye? Why did their clothes change when they zoomed into me? Why did this like, I could not understand, and then I was really angry too because I was like, nobody could even ask if I was okay. I was like, "I gotta get the fuck out of this city." And I'm like, "I'm leaving. Like, I gotta leave LA. This place is a shithole. I don't wanna live here." If that happened in New York, someone would at least say something. Nobody even acted like anything even happened. And the whole day, I just kept thinking, like, why were those people looking like they couldn't see it? And I kept thinking, I'm like, why did those people kept thinking like, why were they acting like they couldn't see it? And so but then the crazy thing is, the next day, I wake up, get on the bus again, and then the bus driver says, "Hey, are you okay?" And I kept saying for the last 24 hours, "Why did nobody ask if I was okay?" Like, I didn't expect you to what, beat the guy up, hunt him down. I just expected some acknowledgement of what just happened, that was crazy. And so that's exactly what he said. The one thing that I kept saying for the last 24 hours, "Why did nobody ask if I was okay? Why did nobody?" And then the bus driver the next day, who was not there at the time, says, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Oh, I heard something happened to you yesterday." I was like, "Oh." So somebody gossiped, and I got nasty with the bus driver because I was angry about it, even though, it wasn't his fault, but I was like, "Oh, so somebody can gossip to you about it, but couldn't ask me if I was okay in the moment? Okay." So then I went and sat down. When I did my QHHT when I did my QHHT, um, which this was many years later that I did it. I did the QHHT in 2021. That must have happened in 2014 or 2015, the latest, but probably 2014 was when it happened. And yeah, yeah, I think it happened in 2014. And so Then, oh gosh, annoying. I don't want you to come on my live, jeez. And so, uh, when I did the QHHT many years later, I needed to ask about that I was like, "What happened that day?" That actually reminds me, I'm still paying for this AI service to transcribe that. Okay, good. Let me make sure I cancel that. So in my QHHT, we asked about, like, what was that? Was that really a reptilian? What ended up why did that thing attack me that day? Was it targeted? Was that thing coming after me? And the answer that came through in the QHHT was that, no, it was not, like, targeted. It was when it saw me, it just hated my energy. It was like it was trying to shield itself from light. It was trying to be in darkness. It was trying to cover itself up. And oh, Bailey, you'll do it. I have most of it done. I still have like an extra hour and a half I have to do. Um, so the way it was blocking itself from light, when I looked at it, I guess, it was trying to not see light, trying to not do any of the light. And when it saw me look at it, it got so fucking pissed off that it had to basically like disrupt my light. Where'd you see it? On the street at like 9 o'clock in the morning in broad daylight. And this was shortly after I had done that ritual. And then I had lesser things happen. So that was the extreme one. But then I got attacked by 3 other homeless people within the next couple months. And it's not as bad as it is now. Now it is 1,000 times worse in LA than it was then. And I got attacked by a guy that looked like a demon Jesus. This guy looked like Jesus as a demon. He was so scary. And he I saw him outside and he looked at me and I just got a terrible feeling. So I went around the other way and he showed up on the other street with his dick out, obviously. And then I got chased by another homeless guy and then also this homeless woman too. And all of them were like something had taken over them. Like they had this like crazy dark force taken over them. And now it's completely different. It's way worse now, with the homeless problem in LA. It was just like these people were like vessels. It was like and other stuff too. There was just a lot of other stuff. I had never had medical issues my whole life. And that time after I did that ritual, which it wasn't anything crazy. It was like a very normal type of ritual. Um I had severe digestive issues for months and months and months and months. So, I went back to my initial intuition, which was that I should not be messing with magic. However, now, I do have a little bit more open-mindedness around it because, after I did my shadow work journey and I went through all of that, I I do feel a little different about all of that stuff. I don't feel afraid of anything, you know? Although I will tell you guys, about a month ago, I went to this place that was a theosophy dome, and it was for the Theosophical Society. All this crazy stuff with Helena Blavatsky kept happening in my life, and I ended up with you said, "Don't mess with black magic." It wasn't black magic. It was literally what people call white magic. No, I didn't do any black magic. It wasn't a curse, it wasn't a hex, it wasn't baneful. It was literally very basic magic. You said, "I feel like you have to do better protection boundaries." I just think that you have to stop licking yourself so loudly. My gosh. Nintendo. I know you're cute, but you're, like, sucking your dick like crazy over there. It's so loud. Um, whether you label it black or white, it's the intention. Yeah, I mean, the intention was, for prosperity. Um, I know this dog is like, he's so cute, but he's a little pervert. You can't hear him. I can. It's so loud. He's going crazy over there. Um, he's giving himself a haktua. I know. It was crazy. You see his little eyes in the background there. So yeah, I mean, I just think that, you can do, I've always been, I'm more towards like the quantum mysticism than physical ritual magic, because physical ritual magic, I believe, is that you are working with something that is a being, an entity that cannot be in the physical. And this is the trade off of them getting something from the physical and then what they can exchange for you with. Whereas quantum mysticism is you're working with the matrix, you're working with the field. So, someone said, what happened a month ago? So I went to the theosophy stuff. All this Helena Blavatsky stuff was coming up in my life like crazy. I ended up in this thing where they were reading about her life. The next day, I ended up in her old dome where she had her, please, you're so loud. I love you. You're so cute. But please. And so while I was at this theosophy dome, the woman that was there, she ended up talking to me about, she had like a whole altar of different magic and stuff. And there was like, a lot of magical energy and a lot of different ritual stuff and things like that. And she was saying she had to move the altar from this place to another location. So she created an identical space to put all the altar stuff in so that it would move in the identical box that it was in. So it was a whole process. And then we started talking about this place, which used to be called Panpipes, And Panpipes is the store that was in The Craft. So the movie The Craft, it was actually a real store in Hollywood, and it was very close to my place. And so when I was younger, I used to walk by it and be like, "Oh my god, this place is so dark. This place is so scary. I'm terrified." I would never go inside because it had like the darkest energy. And then I saw a documentary on YouTube called How to Sell Your Soul, and they actually do it through that place, through that same spot that I found that I thought it was very scary and I didn't want to go there. So I would never go into the store, and then I watched the documentary. Documentary is awesome if you wanna watch it. It's called How to Sell Your Soul. It's really, really interesting. Very, very interesting. And so then she's talking to me. I was like, "Oh, talking about panpipes." And then she's like, "Yeah, well, I was like, "Well, it's shut down now. It doesn't e it's not around anymore." And she's like, "Oh, no, they just relocated and changed the name. It's Pan's Apotheca now." And I was like, "Oh." I didn't know it was called Panzapotheca. I didn't know it was still around. And she was like, "Oh yeah, Vicky owns it. Vicky's the best. I love Vicky. She's awesome. She's a badass. She's a real witch." I was like, "Oh, okay." So we had this little conversation and I was like, I put it in my saved places in my Google Maps and I was like, maybe I'll go check it out, the new location and see. And then from that moment, it was like poking at me mentally that I have to go to this place, Panzapotheca. And I'm like, damn, like I am just feeling like I am so pulled to this place. I need to go. I cannot get it out of my head. And then, so I end up looking at their Instagram and I see that they have a Jupiter retrograde candle. And so I saw this Jupiter retrograde candle on their Instagram and I was like, I need it. I just need this candle. And so I talked to my friend if she's ever, I was like, have you ever been to that store? And she's like, oh yeah, that store has like a super dark energy. Where can you find it? It's on YouTube. If you just put How to Sell Your Soul documentary. And then so I'm like, okay, I need to go to this store and I need to get this candle because I am being pulled to this store to get this candle. My friend's like, I don't know. I don't like that store. It's kind of got dark energy. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll go to Spellbound Sky instead and get a candle there. And so I'm like driving to Spellbound. Spellbound is awesome. And I'm like driving to Spellbound, but I never realized on the way to Spellbound is Pan's Apotheca. I actually have to pass it. It's been there all this time. I've never seen it. I've never known it was there, but it's on the way. So I'm driving to Spellbound and then I'm seeing, oh my God, but Pan's Apotheca is here. And it says on their website, we serve the light and the dark. They tell you flat out. They're like, it is what it is. Okay. We serve the light and the dark here. And so I'm seeing it. And then there's a parking spot right in front. And there, for a parking spot to be right in front of anything in LA is crazy. And it had a meter and it was just empty right there waiting for me. So I was like, I'm going to go. We're not going to Spellbound. We're going to Pan's Apotheca right now. So I go inside. It really wasn't scary like I had found the old place to be, but this is before I had done all of this level of shadow work, you know? So it's like now I feel like I have nothing to be afraid of, you know? And so I go into this place, Pan's Apotheca, you know, very witchy, very different than Spellbound. Spellbound is witchy, but it's like glamour gay witches, you know? It's like 2 gay witches, and it's very like disco Elvira. This was like, you know, dim, very like old school type of place. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So then I'm like looking around and I was like, "Oh, you know, I saw that you had this Jupiter retrograde candle on your Instagram." And then she said, "Oh my god, you know, we sold out of them, but I can make you one." And I was like, Disco Elvira is your DJ name in another life. And so I was like, "Oh, okay." So she's like, "No, I'll make you one. That's okay." And so the Jupiter candle is like one of those tall, you know, spell candles. I don't have one of them here, but one of those, like, tall spell candles, and then it was basically, all blue, but she was sold out of it. So then she was like, "Huh, well, I'll make you one." She said, "Do you want us to do it also for the sun?" And I was like, "Sure." I mean, I don't know. I never really did one of these. Oh, a pillar candle. Yeah, like a 7-day candle. And was like I'm like, "Sure, I never really did one of these, so whatever you think." She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Let's do half blue and half yellow." And then she's like, "Oh, okay, and then I'll" um, she puts, like, some oils and potions and stuff on it, and she does her little magic with the candle, and she gives it to me, and she's like, "Okay, well, like, write some sigils on it and envision your thing and just make sure that, you know, you don't leave it burning when you leave the house or when you go to sleep." She's like, "Just make sure you snuff it out." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, and, like, if it explodes, that's okay." Like, she's like, "Don't worry. It doesn't mean it doesn't work if it explodes." I'm like, "Okay. Alright." And it was the woman that my friend was talking about, the one that was there and did it for me. So, I went home and I started it on the day of so Jupiter retrograde started on Wednesday, but then Thursday is Jupiter day. So, I was like, "I'm gonna start it on this Thursday after Jupiter retrograde starts." So I start looking up. I'm like, "How do you do sigils?" Like, I know a sigil is like a symbol. I don't know how to do a sigil. Like, are they pre-made? Do you use them? And then, because I mean, I just didn't know that much about witchcraft in that way. You know, my areas of expertise are more towards like reality and consciousness and like aliens, dimensions, not towards like kind of even, you know, other old stuff like ancient stuff. I'm not super versed in ancient and, you know, Gnosticism and all of those things, like the very ancient world stuff. I'm more of a futurist, you know? So I was just like, I don't know how to do a sigil. So I looked up a bunch of things and saw how to do it. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to make some sigils. So I made 3 sigils and I did all the steps to make one. And then the sigil is basically like a symbol that has a meaning that is individual to you. So you use your affirmation or spell or whatever, and then you turn it into a symbol. And then you use that symbol as like, the affirmation. I just use like an affirmation. The the Philosophical Research Society is a great place to learn all types of esoteric. That's where I that's where this journey started. Was the night before I ended up at the Theosophy Dome, I was at the Philosophical Research Society, and that's where the Helena Blavatsky stuff was getting read that incited this incident that started in the beginning of this. And so I set 3 intentions and I did 3 sigils, and she told me, write them on the candle. So I drew them on the candle. And they're all like normal stuff. They're really just for like prosperity, for letting my creativity flow, like, very normal stuff. Having like an open channel of creativity. And so then I write them on the candle. I do all of the stuff. I'm like, okay, here we go. I light it. It was all burning crooked. And I'm like, oh, damn, it's all burning crooked. I don't want to, I want it to burn even. So I burned it for like a couple hours the first night, but it was already late by the time I started. So then the second day when I started burning it, and throughout the day, I think one of the days I was doing a hypnosis, so I wouldn't burn it if I was doing a hypnosis, just because, like this space is then for that person. So I was like, I didn't burn it until the night when everything was done. So I only was burning it a couple hours the second night as well. So now this is where it gets crazy, you guys. So, what is the difference between sigils and runes? I am not super versed in it, but I'm pretty sure the runes are set and the sigil is you make it yourself. And that the runes are like these ancient or old symbols that have been around that have their specific meanings. Whereas a sigil is like one that you've created yourself, that is your symbol for what you're creating. So, second night, I burn this candle, snuff it out, put it out. And then this was so crazy, you guys. Turn off the lights. It's dark in my place. I go and lay down in bed. I have never had sleep paralysis in my whole life. I have never had anything like this happen to me before. So I must have been asleep, although I did not know I was asleep. So I go to sleep, I guess. I know I went into bed. I laid down. I then, as I'm laying down, now I'm assuming I'm asleep because what ensues did not happen in the physical. So I'm assuming it was a dream. So I'm laying down and then I see a black cat where the candle is in the darkness. It's dark in my room. I see a black cat on the table where the candle was. It was like the candle was gone and there was a black cat there. So I get out the bed and I'm like, what the fuck? Is there a candle? I mean, a cat in my room where the candle is? So I get up and I walk over and I'm like, in the darkness, I'm like, is that a cat? And I go to like reach out. It jumps on me and knocks me down on the floor onto my ass. I feel myself fall on the floor. So then I get up and I'm like, what the fuck was that? No. I was like, no. And then for some reason at that moment, I'm like, oh, that couldn't have been. I need to go lay down. I need to go to sleep. that couldn't have just happened. So I go back into the bed. I lay down to go to sleep. And then my whole room is lit up by police lights, red and blue flickering. Red and blue flickering police lights. My whole apartment is lit up with them. And I'm still like, everything is the same. This is not like a dream world. This is like my regular apartment, completely lit up. And I'm like, I start hearing in a scary demonic voice in one ear, hearing, well, do you really want this? Because if so, it'll have to come at the expense of others. And then in my other ear, I hear my sister telling me this story about this woman who has 3 children and this horrible thing happened to her. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's telling me like, basically like, do you want this? Because if you want this, other people will have to suffer. And I'm like, damn, I'm just asking for like creativity. Why are the demons telling me it's going to be at the expense of others? So I'm laying there in the bed. Again, I'm assuming I was asleep with this, but I felt completely awake. And I'm like, no, I don't want this at the expense of others. I don't want anyone else to suffer for what I want. No. And I'm just knowing that these lights flickering outside, these police lights flickering outside, it's like I'm knowing that like, oh, holy shit, there's a person wounded or something outside because of me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm like, my heart's racing and I'm like, no, I don't actually. If it's going to be at the expense of other people, no. And then I look over to the candle because I'm like, what the hell is this candle doing? What the fuck? I thought I was lighting a fucking ritual candle, not killing people. And then, so I look over at the candle, and then this gets even more fucked up. Okay. The candle transforms into Joe Dispenza, but it's a zombie Joe Dispenza. This is not sweet Joe Dispenza. This is zombie Joe Dispenza. And zombie Joe Dispenza walks over to my bed, pulls the covers, spits in my bed, spits in my fucking bed, and then gets in the bed all creepy zombie like. And like I said, I never had sleep paralysis in my whole life. I'm like trying to get up and I'm like, oh my God, I can't move. And I like try so hard that I try to reach over to see if he's really there. And I'm trying to say something to him. I'm trying to speak. I can't speak. I can't anything. I get enough strength to move my hand to touch him. And as I touch him, I'm like, and I wake up and I am in the same position that I was reaching over to Joe Dispenza. So I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking terrified. I need to go to sleep. I'm going to ask Marcella in the morning because Marcella's a real witch. She knows what this is. She knows what this means. Thank you, Mike. So I go to sleep. I start dreaming about Marcella at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Marcella hands me a book. You said, wait, when did this happen? A month ago. This happened a month ago. And so it was a Jupiter retrograde candle. We're still in Jupiter retrograde. And so in the dream, Marcella hands me a book. And then as she hands me the book, I hear a bang in my apartment and I open my eyes. It wakes me up at the point that Marcella gives me a book in my dream. So I called Marcella in the morning. It's like I wake up early and I'm like, hey, can I talk to you? I start sending her voice notes. I'm like, listen, some fucked up stuff happened. And then she calls me and Marcella's a real witch, you know Marcella. She got this is her Oracle deck. And so I'm like, Marcella, what do I do? I don't want to do what Aleister Crowley did that time, because there's like that story that Aleister Crowley started a ritual, but then didn't finish it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So what do I do? How do I get rid of this fucking candle? How do I stop it? I already burned it 2 days. What do I do? And she was like, oh, she's like, oh, don't worry. She's like, okay. She's like, look, it was just a test. She's like, it's okay. It was just a test. And oh, thank you, Andrew. And so she was like, okay, so she's like, so the black cat, she's like, that's very common with using candles. She said, so basically, she said, so basically, there's black cat energy that is connected to candles. And she said, when you ask for something, the cat will retrieve it. So she said, when you went over to the cat and it jumped on you and knocked you down, that was the cat telling you that you're in the way of retrieving what you want. The things that you want, you're the problem. You're the one that's in the way. So it can't retrieve it because you're the one that's in the way. Marcella Kroll, yes, Marcella Kroll was who I called for advice that morning when I woke up from this. And then she's like, so don't worry. She's like, the black cat, it just retrieves stuff. It's totally fine. Just you got to get out of your own way. You got to meditate and find out what you're in your own way. And I'm like, okay, well, what about the police lights outside and saying that someone's going to get hurt for my stuff? Does that happen? Is that true? And she's like, well, sometimes when you do magic, it has to take it from someone else. That's why you have to give it an offering. And she's like, did you give an offering? I'm like, no. She's like, okay, so that's fine. She's like, look, you're going to have to meditate. I don't know what you want to do. Maybe you work with the Akashic records. You want to ask the Akashic records what the offering is. Ask the candle to tell you what offering it wants. It's going to need something from you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then she's like, yeah. And, she's like, have your sister do some Reiki to clear the energy of your space if there's anything going on. She's like, pull some cards, ask these questions, ask what the candle wants from you, ask what your relationship with the candle is, ask what this is. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, it's so interesting that you brought up the Aleister Crowley ritual, though. She's like, the Abramelin ritual is what it is. And she's like, oh, so you need to look at that, because this is what happens during that ritual is there is tests that happen that kind of scare the shit out of you, but it's really to like teach you certain things, like you're in your own way or this, or you're not doing the offering, or and then I was like, okay. And she's like, listen, I don't know what the Joe Dispenza, the zombie Joe Dispenza means. She's like, I don't know what that means to you. She's like, I don't have any type of, meaning about what Joe Dispenza does or is. But she's like, maybe it's something connected to kind of creating your own reality or your own, like something with the mind, something like that. But you said maybe it means that he's a fraud. No, I don't think it had anything to do with Joe Dispenza as a person. I think it had to do with me, basically, like because he represents like creating your own reality. He represents like shaping your reality, reprogramming your mind and stuff like this. So I think it's connected to that. So I meditated on it. I did all the things that she said, and it told me that it wanted a dozen red roses. So the candle said it wanted a dozen red roses. So I was like, all right, well, my ass is gone. I'm going to get those roses right now. Coming right up. Coming right up. Because I was like, do I stop the ritual? She's like, no, just finish it. You're fine. She's like, it's not that big of a deal. You'll be okay. It's not that. She's like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. So I went and I got it the roses, and um then I pulled the cards, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but a lot of the things was like, what do I have to let go of? And it was kind of like letting go of fear of the unknown. What do I have to call in? I have to call in power. What is going to be the outcome? And it basically got the death card and the transformation card, which are both the same thing, which is, the old is leaving and the new is coming in. And so then the candle kept burning crooked. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want the candle to burn crooked." So I've heard that, like, if you get, like, tinfoil and put it over the thing, it'll get the glass hot enough to then even out the candle. So then I was like, how did I use the roses? I just put it in a little small vase and put it in front of it, and then I cleaned the water every day, um, until it was done. And then I so then I was like, "Okay." I didn't have any tinfoil left in my place. I don't really use it because, I've heard that it's, like, not good for you to cook it with, like, aluminum and stuff. So I didn't have any tinfoil. So I go to CVS, which is just, like, close to me, and the tinfoil is $8.99 for the CVS brand. And just on principle, I thought that was fucked up. I was like, $8.99 for the Great Value brand? Oh, hell no. S What the fuck? Gonna make a fool out of me. So then I leave, I don't get it. I got, like, some other stuff that I needed, but I was like, "That is insane." Like, I mean, the prices of everything in LA are just insane, but I was like, on principle. Yeah, are you out of your mind? $8.99 for a roll of store brand, low quality, and it's the only one you have? So I leave without the tinfoil. I get something else instead, just, whatever else I wanted, like water or something. And then my sister was like, "Bitch, you're failing the tests. You are failing the tests because the candle is asking you for the tinfoil. You want prosperity? Get the $8 tinfoil now. Go get your ass back there and get it for that damn candle. That candle is bossy as hell." And I was like, "All right, yeah, you're right too. I want to create prosperity and I'm being cheap. Better not be cheap with this candle." Okay. So then I like, yeah, pass the tinfoil test. So then I go back and I get the tinfoil and I create like a little crown for it so that it can. And I was like, so then every day when it would burn a little bit crooked, I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to put your crown on." And I was like, then after that, the candle was great. The energy was great of the candle. Like, I felt like the whole energy, it wasn't scary anymore. It got the roses, it got its tin foil, and then it was fine, and I burned it for, like, almost 2 weeks after that. But then, I know someone else that got a candle recently, and it kind of really, like, ended up putting them in an embarrassing situation that called them out, and I was like, "Damn, these, like, ritual candles, they really, like, call you out. They really, like, they're like, 'Oh, you're in your own way.'" Where did you get the candle, and what was the name of the documentary you mentioned? So I got the candle at Pan's Apotheca in LA, and then the documentary was called How to Sell Your Soul, which is the old location of Pan's Apotheca. It was through Panpipes, and Panpipes is the store that is in, the Craft. So the store that was in the Craft is the original Panpipes. So, but it was so interesting too because when I went there, the woman who owns the store, Vicky, told me, because she was sold out of the blue candle, and then she was like, "Oh, why don't we do half blue, half yellow, and for the yellow, you'll have, it'll be for the sun." When I got home, I realized, I'm like, I didn't tell this woman anything about me, and I'm ruled by the sun as a Leo. So I was like, "Damn." She was like, "Let's do it for this." And it was my ruling planet. And I was like, "Damn, she was the real deal." She was the real deal. Um, I gotta say, I'm glad the candle's over. I'm glad the candle's over. Um, it was quite the experience. I'm glad that it's over. Um, does bad witchcraft go back to them? Go back to who? You have a Reiki healing candles, and that's all you're sticking to. Were you ever in a room with little tent beds and columns? No, I don't know what that means. You had a dream, reverse, white tiger. It was scary because she was staring at you. It was like interesting. Don't get a candle. The zombie getting in my bed part. That part was scary. Whoever does has bad intentions. Like, what if the person who made the candle has bad intentions? Um Probably. I don't feel that she did, though. I don't feel that she did have bad intentions. Um, I think she was nice, you know? She was very nice. She made the candle specially for me, so, I think it all, like, was meant to happen in that way. But a lot of that stuff has been happening to me recently. Like, I gotta admit to you guys, I kinda stole a book recently, and I would normally never steal anything, but the circumstances were um, so I, like, cleaned out a bunch of stuff in my apartment, and then so ever since I went to that Theosophy Dome, there was also an Aleister Crowley picture on this altar, and so well, really, it was in the bathroom, but it was Aleister Crowley stuff in this place as well because he was also, like, connected with Theosophy, and so he's been ever since went to the Philosophical Research Society and had that night there, Helena Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley have been popping up like crazy everywhere I turn. And so the other day, I was cleaning out my apartment, not for like any reason. I was just, cleaning up some stuff that I wanted to get rid of. And the instant that put the stuff in a box that I'm like, oh, I'm going to donate this to Goodwill, I was like, I'm going to take it right now, right this second. And then I'm like, okay, so I put the stuff in. And I'm like, right that second, when do you say you're gonna donate something to Goodwill and then go that very instant? And I was like, I gotta go right now. I put the stuff in my car and I drove there. And then it was like kind of closing. It was like almost closing for the day. It was like kind of late. And so I put the stuff in the bins, but then I was like, "Oh, well, at least let me organize into the different bins." I'll put some of these things, the stuff that's in this category and the stuff that's in this category. So then I was like, "Oh, well, let me like at least organize it a little bit so I'm not just throwing everything all in one bin." And the bins are kind of like outside. They're not like fully in the store yet. The stuff hasn't really all been brought in. And so I then put some stuff in the book bin. And when I put down the stuff, which it was some oracle cards, um, I put them in the bin, and right there is the Aleister Crowley book. And I was like, I'm taking it. I'm so sorry. I'm taking it. So it never made its way into the Goodwill. The person who dropped it off must have dropped it off right before me. But like, it was a trade. It was for me. That's like what I feel like when I put the stuff down. I was like, oh my God. I just put it down on top of an Aleister Crowley book. And I was like, okay. So I was like then I just took the Aleister Crowley book and, like, walked out, and I was like, "I feel so bad." But honestly, they didn't even bring it in yet. It was still in the donation box, and I swear the person who must have just put it in there right before I walked up. So it was, like, the perfect timing for me to, get it, but then I did feel a little bit bad because I was like, but I still do gotta go and see if there was anything else cool that was, manifested that book. That book manifested me. It's the Book of Thoth. And it's interesting because Thoth has been coming up a lot. Do you think that exorcism is a form of incantation? Um, I don't know. I do believe in exorcisms. You found 2 cool books in a free library in Pasadena. I mean, I think it's so good, like, books to be kind of honestly, too, I'm probably gonna end up, when I do actually read it, making content about the book, so I also feel like sometimes these things like even me ending up in the Theosophy Society and stuff like that, I feel like sometimes these books and things find me because they want to be shared. They want me to make content about them. Have I had any astral out of body experiences? Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's the Crowley deck. So I didn't buy the deck yet. I am going to buy the deck after I read the book. You just got the emerald tablets in the mall today. Oh, wow. Cool. That's the ADHD equivalent of don't put it down, put it away. Your friend said they was gonna steal a book from me. Books find you so that you can share them. Yeah, that book is a hard read. I know. That's why I'm gonna wait to get the deck until after I read the book because I've heard that it's pretty difficult to read, that Thoth book. That's probably why it ended up in the donation bin at Goodwill, you know? It probably wasn't for that other person, it was for me. The astral experience. So my experience in the astral, I've also talked about it in my really old YouTube videos, um, in greater depth, but basically, December 21st of 2020, when that whole, like, conjunction was happening, remember that big grand conjunction was happening, and they said, like, the new Earth was starting? So, I wasn't gonna take any risk. So, I cleansed myself, meaning, like, I'd stopped smoking. Now I don't smoke, but at the time I was smoking. So I stopped smoking. I was only on a green cleanse of green juices, green food, veggies only. I was on like a full cleanse, body cleanse, mind cleanse, doing these deep meditations just in case the earth shift did happen that day. You know, I was like, well, let me just be ready. Let me do what I got to do. So during that conjunction, um, I did this meditation. So I'd actually been practicing for a few days and I had a couple days before the first success. And then on that day, I had the next success, but was basically, I wanted to go to the Akashic Records. At the time, I didn't know how to access the Akashic Records. I didn't know that you could do it with a prayer. I didn't know how to access them. So the only way I could think about how to access them was to astral travel to them. So that was my goal was I was like, okay, well, when I was learning about astral travel, they said like pick a place you want to go. And I'm like, why would I astral travel to a place on earth? I'd rather astral travel to a place in the astral. So I was like, okay, I'm going to astral travel to the Akashic records. And so I did the meditation, which I tried a couple of different methods and they were pretty difficult. Like I would not be able to. So like I kind of created my own method, which was inspired by some of the other things that I had heard. So I was laying in my bed and I visualized myself sitting, my soul sitting up out of the body, leaving the body, walking out of the room, walking to the stairs in my building, and then walked up the stairs, up, up, up. And I kept visualizing that there was more stairs. So I kept taking like more and more staircases up and up and up and up. And I was listening to shamanic drumming. So the drums, I was visualizing my feet going up the stairs and up the stairs and up the stairs and kept going up. And I kept going all the way to like, I passed the moon and then I kept going up until eventually I felt like I reached like what seemed like a portal or something. So then I went inside of it and then I was in the water and then I washed up ashore, but I was dry. And then there was this big building and this big building had these gigantic stairs. So I walked up the stairs. And when I got to the top of the stairs, this reptilian being came out, but he was very, very cute, very cute. He looked almost like kind of like the gecko on the Geico commercials, but big as hell. And he was wearing and he was more majestic. He wasn't as like playful as that, but he was more like wise, but like kind of that type of lizard face, not like a crocodile lizard face, like a newt or a salamander face. And he had a robe on, and the robe was made of the galaxy. And then he came out and kinda greeted me like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting you." And then he puts his hand out, but it's like a talon. So he puts his hand out, and then I got scared for a minute because now I'm not really scared of stuff, even though I did get scared as hell a month ago when, Joe Dispenza zombie version got in my bed, but So I grab his hand. I like kind of like protect myself for a moment and I'm like, okay, like, if it's not right, then if it's not safe, then I don't want to do it. I take his hand and then he walks me inside and it's like this incredible building that's like beautiful. The tiles are lapis lazuli. They look like this. Like the tiles are everything is like um these crystals are the tiles and the walls and the detail. It's so gorgeous. And then he takes me down a hallway and then it opens up to a giant library. And then in the giant library is this angel, gigantic angel, who's like my angel, who I feel like I know him. I've seen this angel before in meditation. And then he tells me, the angel like says like, okay, like takes me from the reptilian guy. And he says like, okay, let's go. We walk down and there's other people. There's all these tables and people are there with their guides, like going over their books and stuff like that. And then I walk to, there's like a fireplace with these large couches. And so I sit down on the couch and then um these blue beings come, these like light beings. They're just like the shape of a human, but they have no features and they're blue. And there was, I think, 3 of them, but then one of them is very close to me. And I've seen this one before. The one that's close to me, I have seen before in other meditations and healing work and stuff. That one always comes with me. And it looked also like the beings that I saw under hypnosis as well. Like we all worked together. And so then the angel hands me a gigantic red book and it has my name, Jennifer Carmody, on it in gold. And then I go and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm going to read my book." And I open it and then I wake up and I'm like, like I slept hard as hell. And I woke up like feeling like I woke up from a hangover. It was probably like an hour later that I woke up. So I didn't remember anything from beyond the book opening. Then 2 days later was the December 21st, 2020 Grand Conjunction. So I'm like, I'm going to try again for the Grand Conjunction, but I'm going to ask them if they can read the book to me. So that was my plan. So I do the same thing. I visualize myself walking out of the body, leaving, going down the hall, going up the stairs. I tried to go a little faster this time. It was a meditation, but it wasn't guided. I was just creating it in my head because I tried to do some of the other astral projection techniques and I would get too exhausted before I was getting there. So I was like, I'm just going to do it, my way. And so I did the same exact thing. I walked up the stairs all the way up, went to the same place, went through the water, went to the same beach, walked up to the same building. The same reptilian came out. The same thing happened, but I was moving a little faster this time. I gave him my hand right away. I'm like, "Take me in. I don't want to fall asleep this time." And so he walks me down the hallway. I see all of the same stuff. I get to the point. The angel is there again. And then the angel takes me over to the fireplace. The 3 blue beings are there. I get the red book and I'm going to open it, but then I hand it back to the angel and I say, "Can you read it to me?" Oh my, yeah. Hacked the system. And then I am in another place, asleep. Do you ever have this thing happen when you're sleeping where you feel like you're opening your eyes in real life, but in the dream it feels like they're closing? So, like, you ever feel like you're waking up from a dream and it feels like you're fainting inside the dream, but your body and physical is waking, but the dream is like you're fainting. So, like, you trying to open your eyes in real life as if they're closing inside the dream. So then I get this feeling a lot. I don't dream much. I hardly dream. And then I was in a room with people that I knew, but not people who knew each other. And I fainted because I was trying to open my eyes, but in the dream, my eyes were closing as they were opening. So then I fainted and I was not in this Akashic Records place. I was just in another room with other people that I knew. And then they're like, "Oh my god, she's fainting. She's fainting." And then they like are over me looking at me trying to help me because I'm on the floor and I'm trying to open my eyes in real life, but then my eyes keep closing in the dream. And then I open my eyes and I'm on the f like, I was meditating on the floor. Like last time I said, I was like, I was on the floor, but not because I was in shambles or anything, I was just meditating on the floor. And so, I was on the floor, and then I opened my eyes and I was like, "Damn it. I didn't get to read what was inside the book." I fell asleep again. Yeah, it's almost as you had to wake up in your dream. You know, another time that happened to me, but those are the only times I ever practiced astral travel. I never astral traveled aside from those 2 times that the same exact thing happened both times. And then about a year ago, I had a dream. One of my friends was there and but I didn't know I was in a dream. I thought I was awake. And my friend was like, "I just have a really bad feeling that we're inside of a dream." And I'm like, "Well, if you think you're in a dream, why don't you wake up?" And she's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can wake up." And I was like, "Then just wake up. If you're in a dream, then wake up." And I kind of was like egging her on a little bit. And she's like, "But I don't think I can wake up." And I'm like, "Just wake up." And then I'm the one that woke up. And I was the one that was in the dream. And it was so disturbing to me. Because I got that same feeling of my eyes were closing there as like, I was telling her to wake up, my eyes started closing there, but my eyes then were opening here. What was the color of the sky and the ground like when I saw the luminescent being? Um, the sky, when I saw those blue beings, I was indoors. I was inside this records room, so I believe there was a ceiling. You bought a dream log to document them. It's harder than you think to roll over and write it down. Oh, yeah. I have so much trouble remembering my dreams. You vividly dream every night, and waking is almost like that. You feel like it's happening in the dream. Uh, and the second time after you searched the house and the doors were locked. Having an inception moment. Yeah. Why do they look like reptiles? What do you think? So then later on, I ended up seeing online. It came from, like, these KGB books, this, like, allegedly stuff that was, a leaked KGB file. I don't know if that's true. I'm all pink again on this screen. More pink. Um, and basically, I saw a drawing that was very similar to the thing that I saw, and it was called an iguanoid, like an iguana type of creature. So now I don't believe what I saw online about it, but the photo of it, the drawing of it was exactly what I saw. And someone else sent me a picture of someone else's drawing too that was the same as this thing as well. And they're usually getting called iguanoids. And so it's like an iguana being and it has the robe. It has the same face and it has a robe. And let me look it up if I can find an iguanoid. 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 View more. It's in my video, in my Alien series. The KGB leaked video from my Alien series. It's towards the end of the series. The Iguanoid picture is in there. And then what's crazy, I had a dream of that Iguanoid picture, and the next day I woke up and I had a violation on that picture, on that video from TikTok. And then I appealed it and the video came back, but it was interesting that I had a dream and on the TV screen was the Iguanoid. And then the next day the video that had the Iguanoid had been taken off of TikTok. But I got it back. KGB, like the Russian secret police. Yeah, that's like what they say, is that like that these documents were allegedly leaked from the KGB. I don't know if I believe that. And then a lot of people reuse that information, but they're called Iguanoids. And in that information that keeps getting reshared, it's not any new information. It's the same little blurb that has been shared. I think you can even look it up on YouTube, like KGB leaked alien species. And it has like 30 or 40 different types of alien species that allegedly the KGB knew of. I don't know. I don't believe that it's really a leaked document, but that Iguanoid drawing from that is exactly what I saw. However, in that, they say that they're evil, basically. They say that they are dark, that they have bad intentions, and that they're part of the priest class. So, like, these different species have different classes, and they say that the Iguanoids are from the priest class. So, like, say there's a warrior class, a um scholar type class or something, a priest class. So they say that this is the priest class of reptilian species. They say they have malevolent intentions. Let me see if I can freaking find this. Iguanoid aliens. And in the drawing, they say that they wear robes. Iguanoid KGB book. No, it's not coming up. I don't know why. None of the things I'm looking for are coming up. You looked up Iguanoid. So it's like spelled like Iguanoid. Like an iguana, iguanoid. But I'm not seeing it come up. Okay. Let's pull a little card for us. Like an iguana. Yeah, it was very cute. Oh. Oh, again, the almost there card. I love this card. Okay. Yes, iguanoid. Thank you, Crouton. Yandex. I never go over there. Every time I've ever tried, I went there once and there was a bunch of little girls. Yeah, I went over to that website one time to look for something, and I don't know why there were so many pictures of little girls. It was a bit alarming. That's the same reason I don't use Telegram. I used Telegram a couple times, and I was like, "This is disgusting. This is a horrible place." And when they took, uh, when they took whatever happened to Telegram, I don't know if it's gone or if it's regulated or something now. I was like, honestly, y'all deserved it. You went too far. I saw shit on there that I should have never saw, and I wasn't looking. Oh, thank you. Um, with that spelling, some draconian empire titled picture came up that kind of looked how you described it. Yeah, they say that it's like, some dark evil forces, but that guy was very nice. That iguanoid looking being was very nice. I had never heard of an iguanoid. I never knew what this thing was, but then when I saw that KGB declassified stuff and I saw that picture, I was like, "Oh my god, that's what it was." Oh, you have a pet fox on your property? Okay, I'm going to read you guys the message. There was one that came out by accident before, so I'll read that one after, but then this one that was for you guys. Not all reptilians are bad. I know, there's a lot of good ones. Okay. This one is a little long, but it's very sweet, okay? So listen up. This is everybody's message for today that we'll end on. In the blossoming spring season, little fox frolicked and skipped in the wild woods as he played his attention. As he played, his attention was continuously drawn to the distant light, a light that glimmered deep in the forest. Past the rumbling river, although he couldn't quite make out what the light was, every bone in his body knew that it was meant for him and that his soul would spark with joy when he saw it. It was as if the light were a magnet calling out to him. But whenever the little fox ventured towards the light, he was always abruptly stopped by the roaring river before him. Little Fox would fall into despair, for he could not unite with the light that called to him. Time went on, and spring became summer, and the little fox would continue to catch glimpses of the light, still filled with the excitement and the longing to unite with it, with his beloved light, but he regularly attempted to reach it, only again to be blocked by the roaring river. More time passed, and as autumn approached, the little fox grew and learned many lessons. Yet he was still faced with the unquenchable thirst for the light. The little fox became distraught and angry towards life. He often cried out in sharp howls, forsaking life for presenting him with the beauty of the light without allowing him to embrace it. He grew mistrustful that life did not have his best interests in mind and increasingly became hardened and jaded. Autumn transformed into winter, and by this point, the little fox was a big fox. But his heart was broken. For the only thing he ever longed for deeply was out of his reach. The big fox gave up. During the early winter months, the big fox did what he had to do to survive, but he had a hole in his heart. He walked with his head low, for he could not bear to look up and see the out of reach light. One night, as the fox was laying asleep, snow began to fall, and when the big fox woke up, he was taken aback by a new element he had never experienced. At this, as he started his day, he saw a gaggle of geese standing on the river in the distance, completely perplexed how they were standing on the water. He approached the river with caution. He had learned through his seasons of life that he must be careful and cautious. But he put his paw on the water, and he found it to be hard and sturdy. He grasped and thought, could it be? Could this be the path to the light? The big fox carefully crossed the hard water with deep awareness. He listened for cracks and creaks in the hard water and scanned the sky for a hawk approaching. As he crossed the river with extreme care, it dawned on him that if he were a little fox, he would have run boldly against the hard water without a care in the world, and he could have been hurt or even killed. A shower of epiphanies began to rain on him, and he realized that he had to go through all of the seasons to learn all of the lessons to be prepared to walk towards the light that was destined for him. As the big fox finally crossed the great river, he thanked Mother Earth and Father Sky and understood that he had to wait to gain the wisdom that prepared him for crossing the great river. If there is something that you yearn for in your heart and you've been trying to achieve with little or no success, this profound confirmation is that it is approaching. Be patient. There is wisdom in the waiting. This is the preparation time. You are gaining what you need to unite fully with what your heart desires. Endure, endure, endure. Beautiful. I love this is one of my favorite cards of the deck. So, yeah, you guys, the time that you wait is part of the wisdom, part of the energy. Okay, and then this other one, which popped out before, which I've actually never seen this card in this deck. I've never gotten this. I've never seen it. All right, this is your other message, guys. You have a fox that shows up most days looking for squirrels that eat around your bird feeders. Destiny Path, the Bee and the Snake, one of the most powerful cards in the deck. It speaks of initiating the fulfillment of destiny through transmutation. Receiving this card means that you are on the correct path, being led towards supreme success. It is a confirmation that your destiny is in the works, even if your current circumstances are contrary to your heart's deepest wishes. You have a profound purpose that is beyond your current understanding, but it is what every cell in your body has yearned to self actualize. Even your limiting beliefs cannot stop the unfolding of your greatest potential. The symbol of the circles and the triangle is known as the Philosopher's Stone, a symbol of transmutation and inner enlightenment. The alchemical process of turning lead into gold through a deep cooking and heating process is representative of the psyche transforming into its highest potential, leading to enlightenment and the utter fulfillment of one's purpose in the physical realm. King Snakes is the ultimate transmuter. He is non-venomous, yet he can eat poisonous snakes much bigger than himself. He teaches us about the ability to transmute a toxic situation into your greatest asset. The bees in this image represent the gifts that you have within that are of the utmost importance to humanity. The bees are a gift to humanity, and they will pollinate about 80% of the crops that we eat. Your purpose is also a gift of service to humanity. Above and below the king snake, we see the image of the all-seeing eye, guarding and guiding you. There is a force that created you that has been facilitating your growth this entire time. Lastly, connecting it all together is the Latin term, which is on the bottom here, which I don't know how to say. It's going to be omnia omnis est, which translates to all is one, everything is connected. There is a mystery beyond your comprehension aligning you with what you were born to share. Every moment you have encountered was meant to bring you to exactly where you are right now. The ultimate self-actualization is your destiny. You are on the correct path. And they're both so aligned with each other. Yes, this is your life right now. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Here, take a closer look at both of them. Beautiful. So a patient transformation, yes. Be patient. It's on its way. It's all happening. It's all coming into place. It's all falling in together. Let's take one from Marcella's deck for Marcella saving my butt with the candle. Oh, thank you, Lori. We'll take one. How can you know what your purpose is? So there's different ways to know your purpose. Obviously, the hypnosis is very helpful. You know, the hypnosis that I do, the one that Dolores does, is very helpful because you can directly ask it. But there's other ways to know as well. You can meditate on it. You can set the intention. How will I know? But then you got to trust the intention when it comes through. Okay, karmic path. Saturn. Oh, right. Karmic lesson, a learning experience, hard work, perseverance, and structure. A new and valuable lesson is available to you at this time. This moment requires your due diligence. Pay attention to what is being presented to you. Have you been down this road before? Our souls come to this earth school to learn valuable lessons as beings for the planet. What are you being taught right now? This moment may require hard work, but it will have many long-lasting rewards. You are not being punished. You are gaining tools and experience for living that will be with you for the rest of your life. Drawing this card also tells you that the foundation of what you are building is very strong and it is part of your legacy. Saturn is the sixth planet from the sun and the second largest in our solar system. Saturn is connected to the concepts of limitation and restriction. Although it may seem depressing on the surface, Saturn's role in astrology is to bring meaning and structure to our lives. It's all coming in. Where are you? Where are you? Come here. Come here. Okay. Hello. Do you have anything to say? It's about wisdom. Yes. Little baby. Little baby. So it's like everything right now. This is Nintendo. I know. He's so cute. He's going to go back to his dad soon, though. The savior has returned. He's going to go back to his dad, though. His dad's going to pick him up soon. I've had him for almost 2 weeks. So I wonder if dogs have Akashic records. They do. Pets do. Locations do. Buildings do. So all of those things, if you guys watch my Akashic records video on YouTube, we go into all of that. We talk about you can access a home, you can access a job, you can access all types of stuff through the Akashic records. I know, isn't Nintendo so cute? Okay, so guys, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we did this. What about life path numbers? I'm not super versed in the life path numbers, but they're pretty straightforward. They're pretty simple. I think you just break down your birthday. I think you can look online of like a life path calculator, maybe. This whole time I thought you were talking to a little kid playing Nintendo earlier. Oh my god, that would have been terrible if I was telling the kid to stop licking himself. And then I'm like, "Geez, he's sucking his dick so loud over there. It's annoying me." I'm like, Life Path 7, Life Path 3. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head a lot of them. Okay, so remember with our messages, the light that you're yearning for, that destiny, it is on the way. Everything that you're going through right now is meant to be. It's all coming into place. These are all the lessons. This is the foundation of everything that you're meant to do, of everything that you're meant to build. Yeah, saving the world one Hakuto at a time. I know, Nintendo. Oh yeah, he's sitting back there. You see his little glowing eyes. Can you book a QHHT session? Yes. So, um, below the link below, you can book one. So, also here, if anyone on TikTok, if you go to the link in my bio, the top one is for one-on-one coaching, and then the second link is for the hypnosis. So you can book the hypnosis session. Like I said, it can take up to 8 hours. It will probably take 4 to 6, but plan for 8 hours because, if we need more time, if we need to work longer. Do dogs have chakras? They probably do. I would assume they do. The energy centers. So if anyone is looking to book, you can book it through the Calendly link. How does that work? Do you record it? Yes. So the way that the QHHT works is in the beginning, we start with your life story. So we go through your whole life story. That can take 2 hours, it could take 3 hours. And then we do a little short break. Then we do the hypnosis, which takes about 2 hours with you under. And that part is recorded. So obviously your life story, all of that, that's all private. That's not recorded. But then the part while you're under hypnosis is recorded. And then I will send you the audio recording with notes. So some of the things that I do different than Dolores is I take notes during the life story to see if there's anything we should ask about. So you come with 20 questions and we ask your higher self the answers to those questions, but I usually end up adding like 10 or 20 questions sometimes from what I hear from your life story, because the goal is healing. Of course, there's curiosity questions. You can write your curiosity questions. They just get second priority to healing, because what we want to know is, what is your purpose? What is holding you back? What lessons are you meant to learn? Is there anything that you need to heal from? Do you need to be good at meditation before hypnosis? Not really. I mean, obviously, people who are better at meditation have a little bit of an easier time getting the information. But even people that have not been able to meditate, that are not meditators at all, they've been able to do it and it works just fine. How do you recommend we find the 20 questions we need? So I have a video on my YouTube um, that gives you an example of about 60 questions to ask. And then also, is it the Beacons link? Yeah. So the Beacons link has a list of things. So it's kind of like a link tree. The first one is for coaching. The second one is for hypnosis. Now, when you book the hypnosis, you get a document sent to you in the reply that has the whole preparation package. So it has the 60 questions that I talk about in that video written down. So you get to write those and use that as inspiration. It also tells you about like preparing your space, meaning like if you have any roommates or a partner or a dog or something, it would probably be beneficial to let them know that you need undisturbed time. It depends with the dog, it will happen to some people that their dog is going to be there and their dog will make noise or something during, but it really isn't super disruptive. But if like your dog would be disruptive during, then you probably do want to get someone to take care of them for that time so you can be completely undisturbed. That's why I say give yourself up to 8 hours, because you might need a little bit of time after to also, you know, readjust and think about stuff. So you could book that through the Beacons link. Also, if you guys wanted to do the coaching, which could be more practical one-on-one stuff, if you're going to do both, I suggest, like some people want to do both, I suggest to do the hypnosis first, because then we get the answers of what's important, what's your purpose, what to work on, what to focus on, what do you need to heal, what are the patterns, what is the source of those patterns, is there any medical issues, and what is the cause of these medical issues? Is there anything we could do to help these medical issues? What type of lifestyle changes? Honestly, the answers that come through are incredible. So it's been very good. It's been so amazing, the information that comes through. And then you have the recording for the rest of your life. So you get to listen to it whenever you want. And even still, I was referencing my QHHT earlier when I was talking about that reptilian story. You can ask about those curiosity things. Is there a sample session we could watch or something like that? I know I keep saying the answer to everything is on my YouTube, but I did a session with Sarah Brexman Cosme. It's just the one that we did together was for curiosity questions. So it was not personal questions that we did. So you can watch what happens if you go to my YouTube. It's me and Sarah Brexman Cosme live hypnosis session. We ask about the grays, we ask about AI, we ask about Project Bluebeam, we ask about the universe, we ask about the timeline shifting. So we did that out of curiosity questions. We're actually going to do it again this Sunday. But I think we're going to pre-record it, not do it live like last time. You said, I like how you already have resources to all of our questions. I know. I feel like I need to do a lot more on my YouTube, but it seems like I have a lot of the stuff that is needed on the YouTube. You've been curious, but also kind of afraid. Don't worry, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, really, your subconscious mind has already been protecting you and taking care of you for your whole life. The subconscious mind is still going to protect you, still take care of you, still give you loving answers, way more loving than the conscious mind is. So, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to be afraid of. Nothing scary will come through. And if there is any questions that maybe are about something a little bit scary, it'll usually give it to you in a very loving and compassionate way that is very helpful and not going to scare you. And what's great about it is that, like, you could ask these questions of like a psychic or something, but then with the psychic, you always don't know if you can trust it. With the hypnosis, it's yourself saying it. So it's what you're saying, it's in your voice, even though a little bit slightly different than your voice, but it's in your voice. And you know that you haven't, like, you know you can trust what's being said because it's yourself. Yep, isn't that on your QHHT and hypnosis playlist? Yes, thank you. I have a QHHT hypnosis playlist on YouTube, so you can find the questions there. You can find the episode that I did with Sarah Brexman Cosme. You can hear about my own experiences with it. You did Reiki first, and your body reacted to it more than your mind. Mm. And Reiki, it really depends on the practitioner. You know, Reiki can be very gentle, but some people are a little bit forceful with their Reiki, to be honest with you. My sister is the best. I love my sister's Reiki. It's very gentle. So if anyone wants to do Reiki or energy healing, you should see my sister, the self care librarian. Your mind was so busy. Well, that's okay. As long as your body got what it needed. But yeah, take a look, see if it's something you wanna do, but watch that video about, like, questions to prepare, like, how to prepare for it, a session, and then get ideas of the type of questions you wanna ask from there, and you could just start writing them down. You could do the session in a year, but start writing your questions down now so you have a nice good list that really is important. But that's also why I add extra stuff because the whole point is that you do this once, you know? It's not something that you can do it as many times as you want, but you should be able to get all the answers you need in the first time. So that's why I try to listen for things that would also be good to ask. You might have to hit you up on the hypnosis, could be interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's really a very incredible experience. Would you consider writing a book from your sessions like Dolores? Potentially, but it would probably have to happen in a natural way like Dolores's did, where, it wasn't like she just wrote, you know, her first ones were like stuff came through that was meant to be shared. So that would be kind of the, how I would probably go about it. Although I do wanna make a video with kind of the highlights, not with people's personal information, but with the highlights of some of the information that I think could be really helpful to people because some people have said, a lot of stuff about hormones, a lot of that like, a lot of things that come up in almost all the sessions that I'm hearing. I think I do wanna make a video because 'cause I've never really posted about it on this social media. I've only talked about it really on YouTube, on the lives, on TikTok. I haven't made a video yet. You've been listening to Keepers of the Garden. Thanks for the recommendation. Oh, Keepers of the Garden is the best. I love that book so much. Okay, guys, I think I'm done for the night here. I'm ready to hang out with Nintendo. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week. Like I said, if you're interested in doing the hypnosis, go check it out there. Um, the link is below on YouTube to book, and then the link is in the Beacons AI on I didn't vote, Ben. You're surprised you caught a live at the end. I know we went a little late today, but thank you, everybody. All right, everybody. Good night. I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for the super chats before, guys. Appreciate you.